In this video, we're going to walk you through how to navigate the MPC ONE Plus, and more importantly, how to actually start making music really quickly. So we're going to cover all the essential features of this music production powerhouse and get you making music as soon as possible and demonstrating that along the way. So let's jump right in. So let's have a look at the back of the MPC here. So we've got our main out here. So this is going to adjust the gain coming out of our MPC. So it's really cool to be able to control that. We've got our minimum and maximum here. And then we've got our main out here, so we can connect to our interfaces, we can connect to monitors, etc. Input, so we can input audio into the MPC and sample it, which is really cool. And we have our gain here for recording audio in. We've got our MIDI in and out, and then we've got our USB connection here and here. Then we've got our power cable here, and then our power button. So first and foremost, to get this working, we've got to plug in our power here. So we've got that plugged in, and then we simply just need to press this button to turn it on. To get the audio connected, I've got a 1/4" jack here, and I'm going to plug these in to our main out here. So now we have those plugged in. I also just wanted to talk about the front of the MPC ONE. We have got an SD card input and headphone out here. So it's worth mentioning that the project that we're going to work on today, I'm going to plug in my SD card and I'm going to save to that SD card, and you will see that later on.
Hey, just quickly, I wanted to let you know that we now have the mixing and mastering cheat sheet binder back in stock. We printed about 2,000 of these last year and they went really fast. But if you want to get your hands on a physical copy, you now can. And inside you'll find 32 different mixing and mastering cheat sheets that will help you kind of quote, cheat your way to better mixes. These aren't just paint by numbers instructions to boost this frequency or set your attack time to X. Instead, we cover core principles that will help you approach your mixes with intentionality. For example, the 3 ways to use a compressor. If you want to make mixing and mastering so easy it feels like cheating, you can scan the QR code on screen now, head to the link in the bio, or go to mastering.com/cheat, CHEAT. Okay, back to the video.
So let's jump right into it. I'm going to start from scratch here. We're going to turn the MPC on, and then we can start to break down what each of these different buttons mean, some functionality, and more importantly, how we can actually start making music really quickly and easily once we get a handle on the fundamentals. So let's dive right into it. So first and foremost, I'm going to turn the MPC on. So we're just going to wait for it to load. So what you'll notice is we have the option to use kind of the original workflow here using the buttons, but we can also use the touch screen as well, or almost exclusively, obviously, when we're not using the pads to actually play in our patterns. So first and foremost, we'll click next, and we can connect to the internet. So I've already done that. And this is the first thing that you'll see. So this is our demo mode. So if you want to get started really, really quickly, you can just press any of these in the different genres: trap, soul, drum and bass, classic house, future bass, etc. So for now, I'm going to just walk you through how you can start your own beat from scratch. So we'll click empty project. So this is where you're going to be spending the majority of your time when you're actually building out tracks. Sequence, we've got track, and then we have got program. So each of these means different things. So I'll walk you through it now. So sequence is going to be your project as a whole, your first sequence. So we can have multiple sequences that make up an entire song. For now, we're just going to build one sequence, and then I will show you how you can actually start to think about arranging as well by muting certain elements, introducing different elements that you've created over time. So first and foremost, what we want to actually do is, this is our selecting knob here, and we can select all these different sequences. You can see the number change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change our BPM first and foremost of our sequence. You're going to see the minute that I changed it, it's named it sequence 1. So it's now like we have our BPM and we have sequence 1. So I'm going to bring this down to 100 BPM. And then here we've got our bars. So this is by default 2 bars. I want to bring it up to 4. And then you can see we start and end at 4 bars. And then this is our loop. So I want that loop to be on so that when I actually play in for the duration of 4 bars. It starts back at bar 1, and then I can start to overdub, which you'll see later on, just add more layers to our drums, etc. And then we have the option to transpose as well, which we don't have to worry about now. So we can now rename this song 1. And now we're going to start our first track here. So we have got drum program, we've got plugin, we've got program, we've got chords/harmony, we've got a clip, MIDI, and CV. So we're going to predominantly focus on drums and plugins for today. This is the easiest way to get started making music, so we'll focus on that for this video. So I want to pick a drum program, and you can see this little plus button here. Now we're on program 001, and now what I'm going to do is press browse. Now we can actually listen to different kits. We can put our own kits together, and then we can start to find sounds that inspire us and get making music. So I'm going to put my headphones on and we can start browsing. And because we have this selected, we have sync and warp, this is actually warped to the tempo that we've chosen, which is 100 BPM. So I'm going to look for trap drums. I'm going to click this demo kit of Drums That Knock by Decap. And if I click main here, we're going to go back to our program. I'm going to find the kit. And now we can actually play in what we want. So all we need to do is click record and play start for us to actually start recording. I'm going to go to our metronome. So I want our count in here on record so that I get a count of 4 before I can actually start playing, and then we can get this going. So let's click that. I like to look at the piano roll here so that I can actually see the playhead moving and I can get a sense for what's happening here. So let's dive into playing a beat. So I'm just going to have a play around here, and then we can start to get things going. Messed that up. The power. So I messed that up, but guess what? We can just undo it. Now we don't have anything and we can just start again. So record, play start. So we've got a beat going here. Now I'm just going to press stop. And what we can do is we can zoom in here if we want to. I just want to get in here on this vocal. And if I go to velocity here, so I have these different options here, velocity, probability. I bring this up. I can bring the velocity of this vocal hit down. You can see that the color has changed here. And I can zoom back out and look across here. You can also use our cue links here. So this is going to affect our program level. That's going to affect the playhead. So we can see the playhead moving, horizontal scroll and horizontal zoom here. And then each of these is going to affect different parameters. So we've got the basis for our drums here. Now I want to actually highlight what the MPC is really well known for and loved, which is note repeat. So if we look down here, we've got note repeat. So if I press note repeat, you can see that we've got our subdivisions here, and then we've got triplets to the right here. So if I double click this, it's actually going to stay up here, and we can play in. And then we can change the subdivision. And what's really cool here is as I slowly press harder and softer, that affects the velocity. So we can get this really interesting human feeling movement with our note repeat. And we can also change the subdivisions as we're playing. So I'm not going to record for now. I'm just going to play through a couple of times and then start to build a hat pattern against what we've done so far using note repeat, and then we can record it in. So it's as simple as that. We've got some stutters in there. We've got some 16th notes. We've got different velocity that's making it feel a little more human. And of course, we can go in here and we can play around with the velocity if we wanted to. We could bring some of these notes down if we wanted to do that. But for now, I'm happy with this. Let's move on to creating some harmony, and then we can build out a little bit of a vibe here. So now we're going to go on to track 2. So first and foremost, I want to call this drums before I move on to track 2, so I know what it is. It's really important to keep things organized so you can very easily navigate what's going on here. So we'll go to track 2, which is unused. We're going to click plugin. I'm going to click plus. We have tube synth here. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click electric piano. And then I'm going to go here to pad perform. And this is where things get really, really spicy. So if we go to progressions here, I'm going to click C for ease here. We can go to a ton of insanely interesting progressions here. So I'm going to go for R&B. Let's click radio 2021 and see how these sound. So now we have all these chord voicings that are pre-made here. And if we play the pads, we're going to create a chord progression without having to play in multiple notes. So already it sounds pretty good. So let's just have a little play around here. So I like these chords, but what I actually want to do is I want to bring the octave down so it's not as high up. So what we can do is we can go back to our scale. We can click back to octave. I'm going to go to octave 1, C. So we've got our chords played in here. I'm just bringing the program level down, just bringing it down a touch in volume. We'll press stop. Now we can rename this chords. And now I want to bring in a bass. So let's do that. Let's go to a new track. We're going to use another plugin now. So I'm going to go for Dub Factory. We've got our presets here, which are the different sounds. I think we'll go for classic thump here. Let's go back to pad perform. By default, we have our chords here. So we can just go back. Let's bring the octave down and we can have a play around here. So what I've gone and done here is I've just changed to chromatic. I've brought the octave up just so that it's a little more audible for now. And I've clicked C major, and now we have our notes here, and then we have our octaves. So I can create a little kind of bass line here now. So what we need to go and do here is actually talk about our time correct here. So I'm playing some 16th notes in here, but it is correcting to the nearest 8th note. So we want to click 16th. So I'm just going to play that in again. So now we have a basic bass line in here. We can go back to main, or we could just go to main here by clicking main. Call this bass. So we've got our bass, we've got our chords, we've got our drums. Let's do one more track here. Click on here. Let's go to fabric. Let's go for a bell. So we've got fabric, emotional bells here. And now we've got our chromatic major scale here. So I can now play around with a melody on top of this. So I'm going to just go to octave and I'm just going to bring the octave up. Let's just have a little play around here. So I'm going to bring the octave up even more here. And then we can just press stop. And now I want to show you how you can use the power of muting here. So this could be super useful where you're in a live scenario, you want to build out a kind of track and perhaps sing over it, or have an artist sing over it, that kind of thing, in a stripped back live performance kind of setting. So let's talk about this. So if we go to track mute here, now you can see we've got this, which is sequence 1. So remember earlier on, we spoke about how we can have multiple sequences and then we can stitch them together. We would select different sequences as we start to build out through a song. Now, we're not going to do that now. You can absolutely experiment with that in your own time. It's very self-explanatory here, but we just want to get a vibe and get you making music really quickly. So we've got our drums, our chords, our bass, our bells. And if we press play start, we can mute any of these and reintroduce them at any point. So maybe we start with the chords, then we bring the drums in. So you can see in a very short period of time, we've got ideas here. We've got ideas that we can run with, and we can start to arrange this out. We can, of course, flesh out more tracks and make this even fuller, and then use the power of mute to actually arrange everything. But for now, I'm happy with where we're sitting with this kind of starting point. So we want to save our project. So if we go to Shift and Browse, so we have the option here to save. So I'm going to click my external SD card here, which we've got plugged in. And then I'm going to go to MPC projects. I'm going to call it MPC tutorial, so I know what it is. Then I'm going to save it, and then it's going to save it to the SD card. And what I can do is, once I've turned off my MPC, I can then take that SD card out. I can put it into my computer, and then I can start to play around with that in my DAW if I want to. Let's talk briefly about the mixer window. So what we can do is click track mix. Now we have more control over each track, so we can add effects, we can play around with the panning, with the volume, etc., just as you would with your DAW. So let's say that we want to add a delay. So I can simply click on this, I can solo or mute, and play around with the volume, panning. So let's add an effect. I'm gonna add a reverb here. And now I can actually adjust. So you can see how quickly we can actually start to customize these sounds as well, by actually affecting this within the mix itself and balancing everything together and making it more our own. So there you have it. That's how you can actually start to mix this. Now, I encourage you to just play with this as much as possible, and you will get used to the workflow and you'll start to incorporate this into your own productions. That's it for this video. Let us know what your key takeaways were in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.